Are cloud providers using AI as a marketing gimmick? It seems that way. Let's talk about it. So welcome to the Cloud Computing Insider. This channel explores the ins and outs of cloud computing without an agenda or following into the narrative set by big tech marketing. We look at what works and what does not, and the actual value of this technology in a balanced and information-forward way. If that interests you, please subscribe, like, and comment. I'm your host, David Linthicum, author, speaker, cloud and AI architect, top 10 cloud and AI influencer, B-list geek, and over-the-hill mountain biker. Let's get started. Well, just kind of a state of the channel report. Everything's going well, getting close to 200,000 subscribers. I could not thank you guys more. I know a lot of this is by word of mouth and you mentioning it to colleagues and friends, and I appreciate the folks who are subscribing to the channel, and I'm going to keep the content going. Please let me know what you're looking for. Let me know if there's anything I can do to make your experience here that much more productive. Also, we do have channel memberships available. I post probably 5 to 6 weeks ahead of time. If you want to see those videos before they go public, you can sign up for a channel membership. It's just a few bucks a month, and you can get those. So look into that if you're interested. So if you look at the public cloud computing market, and a bunch of my listeners have been bringing this up, we seem to be in the middle of an AI marketing hype cycle that every cloud provider is participating in right now. So kind of people are asking, why is this the case? And what should we think about cloud computing providers kind of all in around the cloud computing hype cycles that are out there? So the hype is replacing cloud substance, and major cloud providers have been shifting the entire messaging to generative and agentic AI, and they're leaving real cloud value discussions behind. And so that's kind of a core concern for many of people who listen to this channel. Even though AI is on their radar screen, it's not necessarily first and foremost in terms of the priorities of the systems they're going to be building in the cloud. So traditional storage, compute systems, that they're using in Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, those are their bread and butter. And they're concerned about the research and development and the assistance and support being shifted away from those core resources into the AI hype and marketing machine that many of the clouds are participating in now. So this has enterprise leaders questioning, AI first strategies actually address their core operational challenges. And what's going on within the public cloud computing space right now is obviously they're in business to make money, and to make money, they have to generate interest in their products, and to generate interest in their products, they have to kind of have at least the perception that they're staying ahead of the game. And so they're looking for AI technology, agentic, generative, traditional machine learning systems, for example, as ways in which they're going to motivate you to buy more of their services. Obviously, AI is tremendously expensive to run. It takes a lot of processing power, in some cases specialized processing like GPUs and TPUs. And so they're counting on that money. In order to do that, they have to basically start hyping the technology. That's why you see the focus on generative AI, agentic AI. AWS just announced their agentic AI stack for developing these systems. And we're seeing other cloud providers provide this as well. They're in essence kind of Me Too tick marks into the fact that, well, we're innovative too, and we're working on all of the cool stuff that all the other cloud providers are working on. And also the movement into AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which is the idea that we're going to build artificial intelligence systems that are basically going to mimic human beings and have creativity and things like that. That movement is going on, and I'm seeing a lot of hype and promotion in the AGI space, mainly because it's providing a vision into what's next in terms of cloud computing. So they're all basically aiming to be the first one to the market with a significant AGI product, very much like generative AI, and something will be truly revolutionary. However, the path to AGI, I think, is a lot more difficult than the path to generative AI. And I'm going to address this in my other AI channel, but, check that out. But, ultimately, this is becoming a bit of vapor, and that's concerning to me, because if there's no real business value there, then the enterprises are the ones who are going to lose out. So the biggest concern is that cloud AI is cost prohibitive for many enterprises, and running AI workloads on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud often costs enterprises 3 to 5 times more than using, comparable on-premise hardware. And the sticker shock is causing many organizations to rethink large-scale AI adoption in the cloud. And we're seeing this movement in droves. There was a recent Deloitte article that came out that understands that we reach a certain level of scale with AI. It's going to be a much better value advantage to start running those AI workloads, training, inference workloads, things like that, on-prem hardware, because that hardware is typically going to be much less cheaper. It's going to be cheaper than leveraging cloud services, public cloud services that are going to be on demand, which are very convenient to, get up and running. I call it the easy button for AI, but they're also going to be very expensive. Operationally, they're going to be much more than traditional hardware, analogs hardware that's going to run on-prem that you own versus something you're leveraging as a service out of the cloud. And the enterprises are seeing that now. And as they're facing AI bills that are going to be, 3 to 5 times that of their traditional systems, they're balking at some of the cloud-based offerings that are out there now and looking for other alternatives. And we talked about alt cloud here as well, private clouds, sovereign clouds, special purpose clouds, things like CoreWeave and Lambda Labs. And those seem to be gaining more focus now over the public cloud providers. And I think that trend is just going to continue. So the next issue is that the cloud providers aren't communicating value clearly. Big cloud vendors talk a lot about AI possibilities, but seldom translate that into tangible, outcome-driven benefits for the business. And without a clear value statement, enterprises are reluctant to make major investments in cloud-based AI. And I noticed this as well with the recent AWS agentic announcement. So it's very good at talking about the capabilities of the technology and the excitement behind it, but almost did no discussions in terms of how much value this is going to generate for the business and the proper use cases for this particular technology. Agentic AI, by the way, very powerful, very cool technology, but it's not for every application out there. And so in other words, it's going to have very focused specific use cases where generative AI can add value. It's not going to be applicable across the wide range of business systems I think people are anticipating these days. And I think someone needs to talk about that, because if the enterprises end up finding that out themselves, and typically by finding it out through many failed projects, that's not going to turn out well for the people who sold them that value. And I would just wish that the cloud providers out there would focus more on more pragmatic messages into what this stuff is for, who it's for, and how to get value out of it. So enterprises are starting to push back, and pushback is gaining momentum. IT leaders are growing increasingly skeptical about AI promises, especially as cost and complexity spiral. Many are pushing back, opting for hybrid or on-prem solutions that offer more control and transparency. As I mentioned earlier, they're shifting focus away from the public cloud providers as the primary deployment mechanism for AI, which has always been the default for the last 10 years. Everybody's, taking a cloud first, kind of role and making this stuff happen. That's going to be too expensive and typically going to be a high risk approach relative to the other alternatives that are out there. The sovereign clouds, as I mentioned, specialized cloud providers, and certainly private cloud alternatives, managed service providers, and co-location providers. Those alternatives are looking awfully more attractive than the traditional public cloud offerings right now. Certainly when you consider cost, reduction of risks, those platforms and the services that they provide are not up to scale. They're not providing thousands of services like public cloud provides, but they're good enough for what it needs to do. And I think many of the enterprises are taking that pragmatic approach these days. So in the next thing, we talked about this, I think when I first started the channel, but cloud conferences have become endless AI commercials. Once technical cloud conferences now feel like AI infomercials distracted from legitimate architectural discussions, which I really love to have, and cost optimization, and have shifted to alienating practitioners who need practical solutions, not just aspirational demos. So again, all of the cloud conferences out there have shifted focus from what cloud computing is, your ability to leverage infrastructure out of a cloud, and therefore your ability to find advantages in doing that, cost savings, agility, agility value, things like that. That focus isn't there anymore. It's all AI all the time. Talking about generative a few years ago, now it's talking about agentic, and we're about to shift into AGI. And so in other words, whatever hype focus they believe is going to grow their particular cloud offering, they're going to punch. And I think that is something that people are getting a bit tired of. So as they're going to cloud conferences, they're looking for how that cloud provider is building value for their use cases. And if it's just focusing on AI and every conversation goes to AI and all they're spending money on is AI research and what they're considering innovation, enterprises are not going to deal with that for much longer. So the final point I'm going to make is there seems to be a lack of innovation out there as well. So in other words, you would look to the cloud providers, AWS, Microsoft, and Google, as well as some of the other, second tier providers, as providing creative and innovative solutions in the space. And those don't seem to be there. So the need for real innovation right now is urgent. Cloud providers must move beyond the hype and work with enterprises to create AI solutions that are generally innovative, cost-effective, and integrated. And I can't stress this enough. I'm not very impressed by, some of the products and technologies and strategies I'm seeing that come out of the cloud providers these days. It's more of a, us too. We're into agentic, we're into generative AI, we're into AGI, we're going to be doing that, we're going to dominate that space. Things like that to try to hold on to their market position without anything that's net new thinking. So we're not seeing things like serverless from a few years ago and something that's really kind of shaking up the market in terms of an innovative differentiator that the cloud provider is able to provide, which is going to push many enterprises to leverage them as a service. And without that innovation, the enterprises are, going to move away from these as kind of their core platforms. And we're seeing that today. So there's a shrinking window to prove they can deliver real business value before the enterprises look elsewhere, and what they're doing already. We're seeing in study after study, the enterprises are considering the other platforms that are out there that are perfectly capable of running their AI workloads, inference and training, as well as their traditional workloads as well. And they're able to do so at a fraction of the cost. And so that's just the reality of it. So the public cloud providers get frustrated with that message, but enterprises have to make as much value as they can with a very limited amount of money. No one has an unlimited budget. And so in doing so, they have to watch where that money is going to be invested. And they're a bit more pickier than they were 10 years ago. Well, anyway, important discussion. Make sure to keep up with it. And we'll cover more of that here as this whole market evolves. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out my other videos on this channel, as well as my other YouTube channel, Dave is Not AI. Also, check out my InfoWorld Cloud Computing blog, my 100 plus LinkedIn learning courses, and of course, my generative AI architecture course out on Go Cloud Careers. We're having a lot of fun over there. And finally, my latest book, An Insider's Guide to Cloud Computing. So until next week, stay very, very safe. Later.